Hi, good morning, everybody. For those who don't know me, my name is Heather Stanley Christian. I'm a physician and practice owner of Unity Maternal Fetal Medicine. So today we're going to talk about what happens, what does it mean when your baby's diagnosed with an abnormality. I am going to try to not make this too technical and focus a little bit on the how do I handle that information? And, this kind of comes under the who knows. We usually handle difficult news in different ways because we're unique individuals, we're unique human beings. We are triggered by our past experiences. And so, how you handle upsetting or unwanted news prior to knowing that your baby has an abnormality is probably going to be a good indication of how you're going to handle the news. So let me set the scene. Imagine you're coming in, you're not coming to a high-risk doctor, because usually when you're coming to a high-risk doctor, there is a good chance that there are some risk factors, or if an ultrasound was performed, they saw the abnormality. And so you're here at my office to confirm or refute that finding. What I'm really talking about are the unsuspecting moms. You are scheduled for your anatomy ultrasound for those who still wait at that time to hear the gender. It's an exciting time. You're going with your family members, your support, your spouse, your BFF, whomever. You finally get into the room with an uncomfortably full bladder, and the sonographer, which is usually the case, the sonographer is scanning and chit-chatting, and the energy is exciting and party-like, and either one or two or things happen. The energy changes, and the sonographer, if they're seasoned, is able to sort of pivot a little bit without giving away anything, but the intuitive will notice the change in the energy. Or the other scenario is the sonographer, all of a sudden there's a quietness to the experience, and they're not talking. You may or may not be able to see the screen. You may or may not be able to figure out what's on the screen. And the sonographer may or may not tell you that there's a problem at that time. Now, sonographers are not diagnosticians, so technically they're not supposed to impart any information without reporting to the physician that's responsible for interpreting the ultrasound and writing the report. So I can't speak to what process that may occur between the identification of a problem and divulging that information to you, the patient. It may be minutes. It may be hours, meaning the physician may then call your obstetrician, and then your obstetrician may call you, and you may or may not get an appointment the same day to discuss this. So there are different variations that occur in the space of taking care of pregnancies, where sometimes how the information is imparted, it may not be ideal for you in particular. However that information gets to you, here's a bottom line. Your baby has an abnormality. And what does that mean? The meaning of it is very dependent on what the abnormality is. If it's visibly obvious, like a cleft lip or an arm that's not right, missing fingers, a clubbed foot, disappointing, but there are things in place that can provide a cosmetic resolution to that. You're not thinking that when you're hearing that. In that moment, your baby has a fill in the blank. It's a crushing blow because as mothers, we want our babies to be perfect. We want to know that they're healthy. We want to know that they're structurally normal and we're going to have a good delivery and they're going to survive that and they're going to, thrive and do the most awesome things in this crazy world. So when we're starting along the road where you're told, my baby has a fill in the blank, it causes all kinds of things inside of us. We're triggered, especially if this has happened before. If we are not so good with hearing unfortunate news or unexpected news, we may be even triggered because the person imparting the news, the provider or the doctor or whomever, is uncomfortable giving the news. And in their discomfort, the engagement and the choice of words may not be optimal, and that might trigger you in the moment. So there's so many intangible things that come with hearing unexpected news about your baby. So I really want to kind of focus more on that today rather than, well, if it means this, then what? So unfortunately, there is not a one-size-fits-all algorithm to say, well, when your baby has an abnormality, feel this, respond this way, and then go do this thing. But what I might recommend is that the first thing you do is close your eyes and breathe. And then you're going to get your wits together. Might not be in that moment. And if you're not able to get your wits together in that moment, that might be the time to press pause on the discussion with your doctor and either reschedule, or if the abnormality is given to you at the time of the ultrasound, gather your wits, go home, process. Do not go on Google, because that's just going to put gasoline on information that you don't completely have. And then as soon as you're able to, you make that appointment, whether it's by teleconference, by telephone, or in person. I would suggest that you bring somebody with you who is able to be sufficiently removed and objective to hear the information that you might not hear in the moment or might not be able to process in the moment, because the mother and the mother heart in you is speaking louder than your ability to process what's being heard. And that's a normal thing for anybody getting difficult news. It's a normal thing. So your job is to identify that you're going to be in a situation where you need to get information, because you're going to now research that information that you've gotten, and you're going to make a plan with your doctor. When your baby has an abnormality, that's the time that you should be referred to a maternal fetal medicine specialist, such as myself. And then you're going to go home and you're going to breathe. And you're going to go on Google, but I would suggest that you avoid personal blog sites. Not that they're not helpful, but in this moment that you're acquiring information, until you're sufficiently comfortable with the information, going to the sources that are most likely to give you the correct information is really, really, really important, because your job now as mama bear is to, out of this uncertain information, you're going to try and create certainty. And that would be, okay, my baby has an abnormality. What does it mean? Are there any associated abnormalities? And what are treatment options? So that's what I mean by creating certainty out of uncertainty. Then once you're comfortable with the information, feel free to go and do your data acquisition. The .edu and the .org websites, university websites, are pretty consistent with the information. And if you go to 3, 4, or 5 of those websites, and you're kind of hearing a recurrent theme of the same information, the chances are pretty high that that is valid and correct information. The important thing I would like for you to know, mamas, is that this is not your fault. This is not the drink you had 2 days past your missed period. This is not the argument you had with your partner the week after conception. I cannot think of a myriad of natural everyday activities that would absolutely cause 100% of the time abnormalities. Now, there are those of us who are struggling, who use recreational materials to help us with our emotional pain. And there may be questions surrounding that. And that is a conversation that you should have with your doctor or your maternal fetal medicine specialist. And even in that moment, that is nothing to blame yourself about. Okay? We just need to seek information and move forward with that. If you have any questions, if you don't know where to go, if you would like to just give us a call and we can point you in the right direction. Again, we're Unity Maternal Fetal Medicine. Our telephone number is 352-404-5544. We are on Facebook, Unity MFM. We have a website, unitymfm.com. But wherever you go, I just want you to know that this is unfortunate, but it's kind of part of how we make our babies. The expectation is one baby, one perfect outcome. But in fact, 1% of pregnancies are either lost or have some kind of abnormality. So that's just kind of how we procreate and how we reproduce as a species. So when you go to that dark space, just tell yourself exactly what I just told you, and hopefully that will get you out of that funk to move forward and create a plan.